hit the beats. Welcome back to Four Seasons. I'm your host, Ken Johnson. And today we're going to be doing something kind of weird. We're going to be making a hydromel out of beets using Gallberry honey, water, and beets. Now, why am I doing this? One, because I'm crazy. I'm crazy enough I'll do it. Two, this is really an experiment. The whole idea with this hydromel series is so that you will experiment, can't talk, with new flavors. So why do I want you to experiment with beets? It has been said that a beet is a poor man's cherry, at least in the fermenting community. When things ferment out, they sometimes will lose flavors, gain flavors, etc. They're different than what the fruit or vegetable will be in its natural state. For instance, apples are notoriously difficult to ferment out and make them taste appleish. Beets are one that it changes the flavor. And so a lot of people say that it tastes more of cherry than the cherry wines and meads. So the star of today's episode is beets. Now I'm going to save you the grueling agony of watching me wash, top, and tail these and then dice them up. But suffice it to say, I have 4 large beets. They barely, I can't even put my hand all the way around these, so these are huge. I'm 6'2", so these are giant beets. So I would say at least 4 pounds, if not more. And so, like I said, I'm going to wash, I'm going to cut the tops, cut the bottoms, and dice this, put it in a pot of water, roughly 8 cups, and we're going to boil this. So these beets, 4 of them filled up a gallon cooking pot. So now I'm going to add in 2 quarts of water, which is a half gallon, and we're going to bring these to a boil. So we now have a good boil. Usually with this I do some type of liquid first, but this time because it's hot liquid, I'm going to do the honey first. So this is a half pound of Gallberry honey going in now. Next I'll ladle in this hot beet juice. Did I ever say I always make a mess? Because if I didn't, I do. Alright, so this right here looks like something off of the set of a horror film. It is blood red. I mean, this stuff is dark, deep blood red. But it's also scalding hot. So I'm going to put this in the refrigerator and let this sit till it gets to what we say blood temp, which is about 100 degrees. So I'll see you then. Okay, so this has been allowed to cool, and I am now going to add in a half gallon of the Hydromel. Remember, we're using the Hydra model, so I'm using the base Hydromel, and now I am doing this beet version using the base Hydromel to ferment. Okay, this is Hydra DJ Fresh Beatz. Water's been added in as well as the Hydromel. This is the recipe. I use 4 pounds of beets, water,
just used the water after I cut up the beets and put them in water, of course. And then I used Hydromel, a ½ gallon. Now I'm going to shake this up and take a hydrometer reading. Just look at this red color. That is nuts. Okay, so it's hard to see with the phone, but it was a little less alcohol than what I wanted. I did get it to 1.026. So you have to realize I put in ½ gallon of my hydromel base. So that's already fermented out with live yeast in it to start this off. So that means I'll come up to close to 5%. It'll be 4 point something other, almost 5% alcohol when I'm done. The Hydra DJ Fresh Beatz is done. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tannins. Go ahead and get that took care of first. Always pour me just a little sample to taste before I do any of my adjustments. And look at this color. Oh my goodness. Okay, we're going to go ahead and add in the 1/4 teaspoon of wine tannin powder. As I've said before, this is nothing more than ground nut shells, and it helps with the process of flocculation, which is settling out, clarification, whatever you want to call it. Already dry, I can tell why they call it a poor man's cherry. It tastes very similar to a cherry mead. Once I sweeten it, once I add some sourness to it from some malic acid, that's when we're going to actually see how this turns out. So this is going to be allowed to sit for about a day or two to clear out, and then we'll see then. Okay, so we have our DJ Fresh Beatz Hydromel. And if we look at this, it is 4 pounds beet, water, ½ gallon of hydromel, ½ pound of Gallberry honey. We did it on July 12th, and it had a 1.026 gravity. Today is August 2nd. Now, I will say this one, part of the reason why we're waiting so long with this is me. I've had some family emergencies come up, and I've had some issues with getting supplies. That's getting harder to do. And this also wanted to ferment weird. I don't know why. It started fermenting fairly good, but it took about 5 days to get it fermenting. I mean, I'd shake it up and bubbles came up, but the bloom wouldn't pop up. And then it went a long time off gassing. But all in all, it seems to be doing pretty good. So let's see what's going on now. Right off the bat, this went really dry. 0.994 is what I'm saying. Actually 0.996. So there we go with that. Okay, so if my calculations are right, we're looking at about a 6% ABV on this. Okay, siphoning this out, it had caked very well, so very little sediment. You can see from that little sampling that I got, it is a puce color. It's very vibrant and it's fairly clear. It's got a little bit of a haze still, but not that bad. Now, first taste is always the worst. Okay, I am tasting notes of cherry. There is acid to it that I wasn't expecting. Naturally, no noticeable alcohol. So dry, this would be very good. People like dry beverages, but I don't like dry beverages. So now I want to sweeten this up. So the first thing I'm going to do is add erythritol. As you noticed from my other videos, I've changed brands. I was having problems with the other brand of erythritol. It wasn't acting like erythritol is supposed to act. So what I'm going to do is add a half cup at a time until I get to the sweetness level that I like. I put 2.5 cups of erythritol in here. It does have a stringent bite, so I'm not going to add any more tannin powder to it, but I think I need to add some malic acid. So I put a half teaspoon of malic acid in here, so let's see how this works. I ended up putting a full teaspoon in here of the malic acid. That kind of rounded it up. I really don't want to make it too much tartar than that. I'm not saying that it's cherry, but it's definitely not beet. It's more cherry than beet. There's no earthy flavor, none of that flavor that you normally get from a beet. I can see why they call it poor man's beet, or poor man's cherry. The color isn't cherry, but man, that right there is amazing. It really doesn't have any of the beet flavor. It does have a very muted fruit flavor. There's not a strong fruit flavor either. No real strong flavors anywhere. But it's got a little bit of depth. Okay. 8 full bottles. Now it's time to cap. Before we cap them though, we gotta add our carbonation drops. So 1 drop will go into each bottle. Alright, so I've got to now use my capper to put these caps on here. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll put these in a storage vessel. I always like to put them in a storage vessel while I bottle condition these. They'll sit for about 2 weeks, something like that, to build up carbonation, and that storage vessel is to keep them from exploding in case I made any bottle bombs. And the reason why I say there's a possibility of bottle bombs, you can have imperfections in the bottle. So the manufacturer could have an imperfection that they didn't detect and explode. I had somebody that they tried some of my hydromel, or they was going to try some of my hydromel, had it stored in their house, and it exploded. Could have been any number of things, but none of my other hydromels exploded, never had an issue. But when it does go, you got flying shards of glass. So I like to keep things in a storage container while they're, working off. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to have it where it's in a safe location. It won't make a mess. It won't hurt anybody. And it can just go ahead and do its thing. And then we'll do a tasting. See you then.
So, it's effervescent, not as effervescent as I'd like, but definitely effervescent. One of the things that I do not like is the color, although the clarity is there. You can't really tell it from the glass. The glass is kind of frosty, but you can see that, okay, this is clear. When I'm looking through the light, I see this camera through the light. You just can't because of the trick of the eye that the camera does. So, the problem with this, it did lose its color. That's one of the problems with beets. They're going to lose their color. Every beet recipe that I've seen where they do beet wine, beet mead, it's brown. It's just brown. It's going to get brown. I don't know of a way to keep the color. But let's give it a taste and see how it actually tastes. Wow. Oh, wow. I could see where somebody would say this is cherry. I really could see where somebody would say this is cherry. Now, I will admit, I tried this just a few days ago, and it was more red, it was more vibrant, but it was lacking flavor. Now it's got the flavors, although there is that almost earthiness. I think a little bit of almond or even black walnut being added to it. You can use almond extract. The thing is, you got sweet almonds and you got the bitter almonds. Bitter almonds are what they make the extracts out of. You don't eat those, you use them in extracts. So the stuff that you see in California, those are sweet almonds. This right here is totally different critter. This needs something to it to make it a little bit more cherry-like, I think, because almonds and cherries are in the same family. Because you can graft cherries and almonds together. I think that this would be better off as having just a little bit. I would do drops per gallon. Until you got it right. Actually have a little pipette and do drops. But some almond extract would definitely make it taste more akin to cherry. Because it has some of the same chemicals in the almonds that's in the cherry that gives it the flavor. And you wouldn't think it's that way. But it's kind of like in cooking, you put parsley with carrots to make the carrots taste more like carrots, because parsley they're in the same family, and so the chemicals from the parsley will cause the carrots to taste more like carrots. It's strange, but that's how flavors work. So this right here needs a little bit of almond extract to make it really have that cherry flavor that you're missing. In lieu of that, you could use black walnut. They have some similar compounds, and I use black walnut a lot in my brewing for flavor enhancement, and I think this is another application where that base note, you need a carrier note to kind of elevate some of the other flavors going on, because it's got some good undernotes, it's got some high notes, but it needs something to kind of carry it out a little bit different. It's kind of like when you do a quartet, you want to have the right instruments in a quartet. You don't want them all to be a trumpet or a trombone or tubas or whatever. You want to have a varying array. So you want maybe a flute, and then you want a tuba, and then maybe you'll do a some type of wind instrument like a clarinet or a saxophone, and then maybe a trumpet or something like that. And so you got a differing array of tones. Same thing with flavors. So like with this, I'll do a taste test. I'll talk about how it goes in. First taste is sweet, and then you get acid, and then you get this kind of darker note that's in the middle, and it lasts. It still lasts, and now it's slowly giving way right now, and I get that little funky flavor I get from cherries, and then it goes really, really dark. And that's the beet. That's that earthiness. I think with that funkiness, the brain is trying to figure out what's that funkiness, where have I tasted it? And so that's the reason why people go cherries. And so if you had some of the same compound that's in cherries, which beets do not have that compound, but if you had that compound, you could trick the brain and say, okay, this compound is cherry, rather than it just be a mere trick where the brain is trying to put in some stuff. So if somebody never had cherries, they wouldn't think cherries. But if you had that compound there, then of course it gives that more definitive, oh, this is cherry. I hope I'm making sense with that. But you need that extra little oomph from something like dark walnut, or preferably almond extract. I hate almond extract, so I don't have any to put in my brews because I hate it. But I probably, if I do this recipe again, I'll buy almond extract, and that's what I'll put in here. But it's got good, lovely flavor. Not the best in the world. I mean, I think this is a strong 7.5. I would give it a 7.5. And I don't like cherries. I really hate cherries. It is, I'm in my 40s. I'm just now beginning to eat cherries. So I would say that if you love cherries and you put some almond extract in here, not enough to say this is almond, I'm just saying a few drops until you get to where you say that's cherry. Because you never kill an almond. It don't take much. Almond is a very strong flavor. But if you put just enough in there, I think the little bit of funk that the beets provide with that acid blend that we used, and a little bit of astringency from the wine tannin powder, I think that you could have a strong cherry flavor out of this and have a 8.5 drink on the 10-point scale. So definitely give it a try.